Hello and welcome to Whiskey Resource. My name is Mark. This is review number 110 and today I'll be doing another full bottle review with a blind dram guest input. So I put out the call for some volunteers to receive blind drams, and Pete, also known as Jeffwhisky, I'll put his links down in the description. He's recently started his own YouTube channel, so you can go check out Jeff, go give him a subscribe. You probably all know Jeff anyway. You probably didn't know he did a channel. It's up there maybe, whenever outside. Subscribe. So Jeff was more than happy to receive some blind drams to do a review. He was willing to put himself on the line and show his credibility, as it were. So I've sent him 3 blind drams. The dram that we're going to be reviewing tonight is the second of the drams. He has reviewed them all already, so I've chosen the second one to get away with first of all. So we're going to go through his tasting notes, my tasting notes, and then we'll do the reveal and we'll see how we get on with what he thought it is. So the dram in question is this little fella here. It is quite pale in colour. The distillery don't say what type of cask maturation this is coming from, but looking at how pale it is, I think we can probably safely say that it is not coloured, and we can probably also say that that has come from ex-bourbon or American oak type of casks. So what does Jeff say? Well, on the palate, when he tasted it, nosed it, he thought that it was probably sitting around 45 to 50% ABV. He thought it was a bit young, maybe sitting around 4 to 6 years old. So obviously I've got the advantage, I know where it is, but in terms of the age, we don't know. It is a non-age statement whiskey, but I would probably guess as to 4 to 6 years, maybe a touch older, potentially. Now, on the nose, he was getting fruity, juicy toffee and green apples and buttered scones. So I'm getting a lot of malt, a lot of youthfulness on there, a bit of peppery spice maybe, lots of sweet vanilla. I think toffee apples is probably a fair thing to say on there. It is certainly sweet. Yeah, it's a nice nose. It is youthful. That much we do know from the nose, but it is quite rewarding. I would say, again, we don't know what the cask maturation is, but I would say that this is probably a mix of ex-bourbon casks, probably a touch of recharred casks in there, maybe some toasted casks, some STRs possibly. Don't know, but it does have a little bit of spice. I wouldn't say the oak is particularly overpowering, so I would say virgin casks are probably not in there, and I'd probably also say that they're probably not even first fill ex-bourbon. Interesting. But yeah, Pete Jeffwhisky got the nose absolutely spot on. In terms of the palate, he said he was getting grapes, melon, vanilla, apricots, lots of fruits and caramel, a little oaky and spice at the end. And he thought the cask was ex-bourbon. So on the palate, starts off with a light sweetness, and that light sweetness suddenly gets a bit more powerful. It's fruity, definitely. The lighter fruits, melon certainly, and citrus fruits. Maybe a touch of apple, but a spiced apple, so there is spices starting to come in at the finish, which is a bit oaky, a bit bittery. The alcohol, it's there. You certainly feel it. You certainly feel the nip, the heat, but it's not too strong. We know this is a 40% ABV whiskey, and the palate gives you that exact. You don't think it's any stronger. Jeff said that was between 45 and 50. Yeah, I can see how that would be, because the spice certainly comes through on the palate. It's Certainly a little oaky, a little custardy as well. A touch cream, definitely. In terms of what region he thought it was, he thought potentially it was English. He says he was getting some fruit notes on there, a very specific kind of palate suggestion that he's experienced before on Bimber. So he thought this was a Bimber. Now I've had a time to talk and breathe. Yeah, I see what he means. There is that kind of Bimberish. It's not quite the same as the vanilla milk chocolate cream that I tend to associate with Bimber, but it's similar. It's quite similar. It's more of a fruit version of that, but certainly is nice. He thought that the price was probably £65, and he scored it quite well. He scored it 80 out of 100. He says it's really good, friendly, fresh and fruity dram, and he'd recommend it to anybody that's prepared to pay up to £65. However, for £65, if it is a Bimber, you probably have to pay a bit more money. Yeah, that's right, Bimbers tend to be 65 plus, up to £80. So that's what he thought. But it's £65. Now, before I go on to the reveal, I actually contacted the distillery shortly after buying this, and I actually bought this direct from the distillery. We'll come to prices in a minute. But I bought this direct from the distillery. It was probably about 3-4 months after it was launched last year. Bit of clue there. So I contacted the distillery and asked them questions such as, was it chill filtered? What kind of casks were it matured in? Has it been colour adjusted? Are there any plans to do maybe an extra release, maybe at a higher strength? Those kind of things. Unfortunately, I never got a reply. So I left it a few months because it was kind of the summer time. I thought maybe they were in the middle of lockdown, and being a relatively small distillery anyway, they maybe didn't have the staff, so I left it. And then a few months later, I fired off the email again, just as a reminder with the same questioning in, and I didn't hear anything back. And then I tried a third time and never heard anything back from them, unfortunately. So I'm not able to answer some of the questions that you would generally need to be answered in order to do the full point awarding. So I'm going to base the points for value score on the fact we don't have those answers. So unfortunately gets negatively marked down for that. But don't worry, things will come good, I'm sure. So this particular bottle of whiskey, it's an unaged statement. It's bottled at 40% ABV. It's currently really only available in 2 places. It's available on Masters of Malt for £24.95, and it's available direct from the distillery at currently it's £25, but they have just started a promotion, and I believe the price is £21.25 right now. So obviously adding delivery on top of that works out to be maybe £26 thereabouts. For a whiskey that Jeff thought was £65, once I told him, because I did tell him before this review, he went out and bought a bottle straight away. He's gone on the website and he's bought one. So the bottle in question, because he thinks it's great value for money and tasty, and a good everyday sipper, and maybe a good gateway malt for people who maybe have tried bourbons and they want to try something on the Scotch line. It is a blended malt, and if you haven't already guessed already, it is from the Glasgow Distillery, and it's Malt Riot. So as I say, it's bottled at 40% ABV. It is a blend of whiskies from around Scotland, and at its core is the Glasgow Distillery's own single malt whiskey. It's the core, so the majority of that is in there. Say we suspect ex-bourbon type cask has gone in the maturation. So an average price of $24.98 for a blended single malt whiskey is not bad at all, really. We've reviewed a few of them. Johnny Walker Green, Monkey Shoulder, the waterproof, Scallywag, Compass Box, Scallywag, and now the Malt Riot. In terms of pricing, this one comes in at the cheapest, but I believe it's also, it's not the lowest ABV, yeah, but it is the cheapest. It's cheaper than Monkey Shoulder. So we recommend this higher than Monkey Shoulder. Jeff certainly recommends it. He's bought a bottle just off my blind sample. So Glasgow Distillery, if you get to see this review, if somebody asks you for information, please come back. Anyway, that's enough of that. So Malt Riot, it's certainly one I would recommend. It's a tasty everyday sipper. It's not mind-blowing, but it's not bad. It's a very competent blend. It just ticks the boxes. I can imagine just a tiny touch of smoke in there would just make this amazing. That's it. Laters.